Bank customers across Nigeria are experiencing difficulties withdrawing cash from their banks. Most banks are rationing available Naira notes to customers even in their banking halls. Meanwhile, automated teller machines ATM are either programmed to dispense limited cash or have none to dispense. Now, sequel to reports of cash scarcity in several states of the Federation, Perpetua Fasanmi-Peters went to the streets of Lagos to find out the extent to which cash crunch is being felt in the nation's commercial capital, and this is what they had to say.
There have been several reports on cash scarcity in the past few weeks, and while the Central Bank of Nigeria has attributed this to uneven cash flow and withdrawals from depositors ahead of the festivities, it is imperative for me to find out how bad the situation is and also get to know how this impacts businesses or individuals. This is Lagos, and I will be speaking to as many Lagosians as possible on this matter.
I need 300,000 naira, but it was limited to 200. Limit to 100,000 naira. Even before getting that 100,000 naira, there are a lot of people there. We need to enter to the bulk room before we can get that 100,000 naira, and there are a lot of people are there. Time wasted and some other things.
I was trying to use the ATM. First off, the queue was too long. I was somehow discouraged there. When I eventually tried, it was not dispensing any cash. Yeah, so I resorted to using POS.
There are 4 banks here that all their ATM are not dispensing, but I don't know why they are not dispensing.
If you go to the banks now, most of the banks, if you want 100,000, they'll give you 50,000. If you want 200,000, you'll be given 100,000. Who knows why government is hoarding the money? Or, I don't know, maybe because of the season.
The situation is clear. There is some level of scarcity, but in Lagos it is not as widespread as it is currently being experienced in other states. Banks have resorted to rationing, and this ranges from 10,000 naira to 50,000 naira, and in some very few cases 100,000 naira, depending on the bank and location. Is there any cause for alarm?
Businesses are now using POS terminals and also are using internet banking. But again, infrastructures have not been commensurable to that, because sometimes you go in there, most of the POS or the internet bankings are not working. So largely cash is still king when it comes to driving business in Nigeria. So it will be very, very blink Christmas if the CBN is not able to address this. That might kill a lot of businesses that naturally come up during festivity period.
Although there were fears that the banking regulator may ban some old denominations by year-end, but this fear has been allayed with a recent judgment from the Supreme Court, which ruled that the old Naira denominations of 200 Naira, 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes continue to coexist with the new notes till further notice. Furthermore, the Central Bank of Nigeria has blamed the scarcity of cash on uneven cash flow and huge withdrawal by depositors ahead of the festivities. It remains to be seen if there is more to this. Perpetua Fasanmi-Peters reporting for News Central.
Joining us in the studio this morning is Economist, and Principal Partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting, Segun Sopitan. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I think the question I'd ask is, from your perspective, what do you think is the cause of this scarcity we're seeing? The CBN has blamed the panic withdrawals because of the festive season. What do you think it's that, or there's more to it?
Well, there's definitely more to it. In fact, I don't think it has anything to do with any panic withdrawal because, we've been in this country for as long as we've all been in this country, and this is the first time that I'm seeing a cash scarcity at this time, and to blame it on panic withdrawals because of the festivities cannot be right. So clearly, this has to do with the currency redesign policy. It's like a reverberation. It's still ongoing. You will recall that this Supreme Court had ruled at the instance of some governors, that the two currencies would run concurrently until December 31. And the public, people are doing business and they cannot rely on hearsay. They can't take chances with their businesses. So I think what's happening is that people are not sure how this thing will play out after December 31, whether the old notes will still be acceptable or will it be the new notes. And that's just creating chaos with consumer behavior as far as cash withdrawals and all that is concerned. I don't think it's the festivities. It's that issue. And I think that the solution to this is for the central bank to simply be more vocal with assuring the public that the two notes will be legal tender after December 31. So you don't have this situation where people are hoarding, because I think that's what's happening. People are hoarding the new notes and probably trying to get rid of the old notes that they have with them. So there's simply too much uncertainty in the system, than is good for the health of the economy.
Well, I mean, I think everyone, should know that the CBN also didn't print enough of the new notes, and that's why we're stuck where we are. But let's also talk about, what happened with that policy. Why you think it failed, why you think it started and then it stopped halfway, and then they stopped making the new notes, and then now they're saying, well, just deal with whichever one you find. It's still legal tender even, till December 31st and beyond. Where did the CBN fail, Nigerians with this policy?
I mean, the whole thing has been chaotic. It's been a debacle. And for me, it's an embarrassment to central banking practice. So it would appear as though, like we all said during the electioneering process, that there were political undertones to the policy in itself. While the policy, as stated in terms of its objectives, was not a bad idea, because we're overdue for a currency redesign anyway. It's by standard, you're supposed to redesign your currency every 5 to 8 years, global best practice. But we haven't done this, and the arguments in support of that are multivarious. But the implementation process that the CBN followed was simply rushed. So you announced a redesign in October 2022 and gave a deadline initially of January. 4 months. It's literally, logistically impossible to implement that. It's impossible. Because what that would mean is, 1, you have to withdraw the old notes, and 2, you have to circulate the new ones. If you count the number of states we have, the number of bank branches we have per state, and the time it will take to distribute those notes to all of those places, you can't do it in 4 months. Logistically, it's impossible. So the CBN put itself in a bind in the first instance. And if you look at global best practice, as we speak today, the United Kingdom have redesigned their currencies because of the ascension of King Charles. The old notes are still, in fact, there are no new notes carrying the face of King Charles yet. They're going to be released about June next year, 2024. But that announcement has been made as soon as the Queen died. So we've had a year and a half of information that new notes are coming into play, but the new notes are not there yet. So you see, this is how it's done. In the United States, as we speak today, there is a rolling plan up until 2028 regarding redesign of some of their notes. And the public knows exactly when the old notes are going out of circulation, when the new notes are coming into play. And we're talking 2-3 year timelines. Yeah. That's how it's done. So what the CBN has done in this case is we've rushed something that is impossible to rush, and then we found out, it's created chaos. And then it's just been a complete debacle. It's the CBN that can fix this problem.
I don't even know how the CBN can fix it. We'll come to what the potential options can be. But some would say that we saw this happen in the 1980s. We saw the chaos that it caused at that time, how there was such a short deadline. People were sleeping in banks, trying to get money. It was such a tough time. And we repeated the exact same mistake. What are the chances that we will not see this happening again in the nearest future? That's one. Then on the other hand, how do you see, what does it say of our economy that we're running 2 currencies? I don't know if there is any other country. I mean, I'm not aware of any other country, but there might be. But running 2 currencies at the same time, what does it say of our economy?
No, running 2 currencies at the same time is actually not unusual. In fact, that exactly is the point. What should happen is you would have a time period when you announce a new currency coming into play.
No, but why I'm asking this is because I had heard of it for now. Both currencies are to run indefinitely.
Yes.
So what if
that
exactly? So from that perspective,
that is an anomaly.
What happens?
That is absolutely an anomaly, and it has to be corrected, because you do not want a situation where, there's so many reasons: logistics, costs. You can't have the same 1,000 naira, and there are 2 different designs. For the job of the commercial banks, for example, your job is double, because the security features in each of those notes are different, and the tools that you require to monitor those security features are different. It's just simply inefficient to have 2 currencies running in perpetuity concurrently. It's an anomaly. It has to be corrected. I think what they've done with this indefinite thing is to give themselves time to take a breath and then try to correct the situation. So we'll hope that they get it right. Obviously, what needs to happen is that there has to be a pronouncement given a time when the old notes will go out of circulation, or a time when you will withdraw the new notes and say, no, sorry, this was a mistake, we're not doing the new notes anymore. It doesn't, I mean, there's no, it's not compulsion that we should do this. If they're going to do it, they can step back, they can backtrack, and then start afresh. Or they can, dig in and say, yes, the new notes are going to be, and then give a deadline for when the old notes will go out of circulation. One of the two things has to happen.
Okay, so,
and it needs to happen quickly enough in 2024 so we don't have this uncertainty continue to prevail.
So the first part of my question was, are we not sure that, is there a chance that we can see this happen again?
Yeah, I mean, with policy making in Nigeria, anything is possible, especially when you find a situation where political considerations come into things that are purely economic and purely logistic, purely operational. This is simple currency operations. It shouldn't be so difficult. These things are straightforward, simple procedural things. So is there a chance we'll see this? I'd say yes. I mean, given our experience with how things are done in Nigeria.
Is there, and I think the CBN did share this a few months ago, the current amount of naira that is currently in circulation across the country. And so to fix this, would the advice be to print more of the new naira notes, or will it be to release more naira in circulation?
I think as it stands now, in my opinion, the horse has left the stable, it's bolted out. We can't call it back. So what needs to happen is the CBN needs to give a timeline for when the old notes will be withdrawn. That timeline must be extensive. I would advise a year and a half, maybe 2. Yeah. And then print enough of the new notes, circulate them, and then, withdraw the old ones.
But that's going to cost Nigeria money.
It will cost us, and it's inevitable. And bearing in mind that this was something we needed to have done anyway, because like I said before, it's standard practice to redesign your currency notes, over time for security concerns, operational concerns and all of that. So it will cost us money, but that's inevitable. It's something we would have had to have done anyway. Yeah. So they need to print more. And I think another thing that bears saying is the very reason that the CBN did the redesign, which was that politicians allegedly were hoarding the old notes
to buy votes.
To buy votes and to do other things that they don't want to spend electronic money because it's easy to track. The same thing happened to the new notes. As soon as the new notes came out, the politicians went after it and cornered it. That actually was one of the major reasons for the scarcity of the new notes when that happened, and that is still the case. So the CBN still needs to address that issue, find a way to bring that money out of the suitcases and under the beds and sockaways of our politicians and back into circulation. That would also, so that will save us some money because some notes have been printed. The CBN actually gave us numbers with regards to the volume of old notes, the new notes that have been printed at that time, and I think they spoke about at a point 500 billion naira having been put out, and then a second information from the MFLS CBN said 1 trillion had been put out. So where is it? Well, if you go to the ATM now or you go to a banking hall, when they give you money, you find that the new notes are usually about 10 to 20% of what you get, which speaks to the amount of new notes that are in circulation. So we need to get the ones that have been printed back into circulation and then print the balance.
It's just
best practice for as far as CBN is concerned is we shouldn't have cash in circulation more than about 1 trillion naira. We were trending at almost 3 trillion, which is why out of banking circulation, which is why the CBN did what they did. So
and they were able to bring a lot of the money back into the commercial vault.
But then as soon as the courts brouhaha happened, everything went back to status quo. So the CBN needs to continue on that trend.
So you're saying it wasn't necessarily a bad policy?
It wasn't a bad policy. It was just poorly implemented. And we mustn't forget the benefits, the collateral benefits, if you like, of this, which is the very significant uptake in mobile banking adoption in Nigeria. It was significant. In that period, all of a sudden, unlike before, you could buy meat in the market and pay. Till yesterday, I had to go to the market myself on behalf of my wife, and I paid every single thing I bought, I paid for with transfers. So all of them have, the mobile banking
it was a similar
operators
experience
accounts. So that's a very good thing, which then again brings me to the other collateral issue, the state of infrastructure and the efficiency of our electronic payment system is too bad. the CBN needs to look into this, needs to compel the banking industry to spend money on infrastructure, because that's all it takes. All of the failed transactions that we're experiencing is simply as a result of the unwillingness of banks to invest the amount of money that needs to be invested to ensure, to guarantee a 99.9% success rate, which is the standard globally. But it's not happening. In Nigeria today, it's a prayer point. You know, when you do your transfer, you then pray and hope, and it's a 50-50.
And when it fails, you know, you also have to go through a process.
Yes,
you know,
to go back to the bank.
Correct
Yes.
Which is a very, very
my brother is visiting
process.
from the United States, and we're laughing about it. He wanted to do a transaction, so he gave them his card, which is a Nigerian card, and then he said, "Oh yeah, let's start praying." And so we prayed, and it didn't work. And then I tried mine, it didn't work. We had to go to some other place, and I tried mine, it worked. His still didn't work.
Yeah.
So it's that bad.
Unfortunately, the customer always suffers the
Yes,
Nigerian.
exactly.
I also wanted you to speak, you know, a little bit about the Godwin Emefiele factor and all of this, you know, because he was in charge of the CBN when all of this drama started. He's currently having his, you know, day in and out of court. It seems like right after the government changed, you know, power, you know, he was left behind, you know, to deal with his travels by himself. So speak about Godwin Emefiele, and of course, you know, compared to, you know, what Yemi Cardoso has, you know, in his hands currently. Would you say that he failed as a CBN governor? You know, will that dent, you know, with this narrow design policy, be enough to say that this person failed as a CBN governor? If you can handle something as
something as basic as that, failing this spectacularly at it was bad. It's a bad testament to his legacy. But for me, his failure as a CBN governor goes way beyond this. It's that I think, you know, and I'm a player in that industry, I think this is the worst CBN governor we've had in recent history, as far as I can remember. If you look at across all of the policies that he tried to implement, whether it's the foreign exchange controls, you know, it was Emefiele, let's not forget. Emefiele was appointed by the Jonathan administration and then, you know, had to be kept by the Buhari administration. So he was the CBN governor in charge during the transition from Jonathan to Buhari.
Yes.
It was under Emefiele as a result of his policies. And people must understand this, that the devaluation of the Naira happened as badly as it did, where we were trending at 190 to 199 official rates and 250, between 220, 230 to 250 to the dollar, parallel markets. Under Emefiele, over a 3-month period between June 2015 and January 2016, the Naira basically collapsed 100%. So official rates went to around 350. Parallel market rates jumped from 250 to 400, 450.
We would never have imagined that the day will come.
It was crazy. When we would now be at 700.
I would give anything to go back to
700. We're about 1,000 something now.
Exactly. You know, but you know that collapse was significant and it was too quick, and it was just because he implemented policies that, you know, were counterproductive. What he was trying to do was to conserve scarce supply, scarce liquidity. You know, so, but then he went overboard in controlling what people could do. So what then happened was that he starved the official market of the liquidity he was trying to conserve, and then, you know, everything just went haywire. That was a bad policy. And then him now dabbling into politics was, you know, was bad.
You know, many instances, you know, with which he could be described as
he failed. I don't think there's any doubt. You know, what is happening to him now is, for me, is not as a result of his failures. I think this is also politics. I think he's been witch hunted and he's been shown shege, to use local parlance. He's just been shown shege for daring to do the things that he dared to do with the currency redesign. But outside of that, we must be honest to let him know that he failed as a CBN governor.
I'm sure that he knows, or I hope that he knows that,
you
know, how Nigerians feel about his time, you know, as CBN governor. Segun Sopitan, thank you very much for joining us. We hope to have you again. Maybe this time we'll talk about Nigeria's readiness for, you know, pivoting to a digital economy. It's a long way to go. We've made progress, but there's still so much work.
We have made very good progress, but there's a long way to go.
We look forward to having you join us to talk about that maybe.
Thanks for having me.
All right.